What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So today we're covering the Dera Vandal Incarnon. This is one of the newest Incarnons added to the game in the Koumei and the Five Fates update, and it's not exactly my favorite. But that being said, does not mean this thing can't do some crazy red crit damage, and that we'll be showing you today. A red crit setup for the Dera Vandal, and yeah, you can just annihilate the steel path with this, although the AoE is not exactly there. Let's get right into the coverage, though. Before we do, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads, build videos, news videos, discussion videos, all that kind of stuff. You're in the right place for Warframe content. And thank you so much for the support on the recent videos. Alright, so yeah, this build is going to be involving no Riven, but if you do want to use this thing, you should probably get a Riven for it because they're not very expensive, first off. And as far as how this thing works, let's give you a rundown of how the Dera Vandal Incarnon functions in the game. So, got some gameplay footage of the steel path. Let's go into the sim and show how you can actually rock this thing if you do choose to use it. So, the Dera Vandal is normally just pretty much an auto rifle. You can fire out some bullets. These have projectile flight time, so be aware of that. One of the Incarnon modes does have projectile flight speed increase, so you can make that a little bit more reliable, but it's still not going to hit scan even with that projectile flight speed increase. Alright, so we go with the primary mode, get some bullets out there. Now we charge some Incarnon ammo. Our Incarnon form is pretty much the exact same thing as the primary shot, but it's just slower and does a lot more damage, basically. So we fire it. As you can see, it looks very, very similar to the primary shot. It's just a lot slower, it hits a lot harder. So that Incarnon slow shot has some built-in magnetic damage, which if you haven't played in a while, magnetic damage is good against Overguard. So that having some built-in anti-Overguard damage is going to be helpful for nuking down higher level Eximus, I suppose. This weapon can one-shot some Acolytes, but the AoE is kind of lacking, I found. That's why I've got a Blast build today and a Corrosive build I'll be showing you. Corrosive build for killing Acolytes, Blast build for making this as a AoE, kind of AoE DPS weapon. So, and yeah, as you can see, we are getting some red crits here. The weapon can achieve red crits, kind of, without some of the buffs we have today, but I am basically showing you a buffed up build. So if you don't want to see everything getting buffed up, this might not be the coverage for you. So, got a Blast build right here. This could be, if you haven't played in a while, we have the new status is unleashed here. Blast procs make enemies explode, and magnetic procs make enemies Overguard take more damage. So that's basically two big status changes right there being unleashed at the same time. And it's actually a pretty effective combination together. The Eximus are going to die really easily, and the trash ads will explode, getting some extra AoE damage on the enemies you haven't killed yet. Now, this Incarnon form does have some punch through built in. We've actually got Rifle Elementalist to buff up our blast damage procs, giving us even more punch through. So we have 3.6 meters of punch through, which is pretty nice. Now, as far as the Corrosive build, I do have my Riven on this one. Again, if you want to use this thing, I would recommend a Riven. And with our Riven, we get another 100% extra critical chance, which means with Galvanized Scope, we're getting basically guaranteed red crits with the Corrosive build. If you don't have a Riven, you could put Hammer Shot on there, I guess. But I'd recommend getting a Riven in the end. So yeah, for this build right here, we've got Galvanized Chamber giving us a bunch of multi-shot. We've basically got all the Galvanized mods. That's how you know it's going to be a good build. You got all three of the Galvanized mods on there. So, Galvanized Crit Chance on Headshot, Galvanized Aptitude, basically Condition Overload for guns on kill, and then Galvanized Multi-Shot. Lots of extra multi-shot there. Let's go ahead and show this thing performs with the Riven, and I'm going to show you some other stuff too. We got a Adarza Kavat, which is going to make this thing guaranteed red crits. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really want to be using this thing unbuffed. We're actually going to throw in Nourish too on the Corrosive build. So we're going to have, if we're in Incarnon form, we're going to have Corrosive, Viral, Magnetic, and I think IPS as well. So we proc Nourish, and we can pretty much kill these guys in one bullet, no problem now. So about 36k, 45k. Now we got some stacks here. We can shred these Exo Dock stands actually instantly. Now keep in mind, I do have the Adarza Kavat buff, and I've also got Garuda's passive too, and Nourish. So we are getting buffed up here. But, again, I said, this is not really a meta weapon, so if you want to use, I would recommend using some buffs. But with the Corrosive build, we can also one-shot these Exo Dock stands with the Incarnon shot very, very easily. We're doing multi-million damage. So, if that's something that looks good to you, then go for it. Just to me, I'm not really a huge fan of this thing. I've got other weapons I prefer over this. But, it's not exactly a bad Incarnon. It's a hard-hitting Incarnon. To me, the main issue is how slow this thing fires in the Incarnon form. And yeah, you can pick some Incarnon perks to make it fire faster, but that's going to make the non-Incarnon shot shoot through ammo instantly. You have to be constantly reloading. That's another annoyance of this thing. A bad magazine and a bad reload speed makes it quite frustrating in the long run. So going over all our Incarnon perks we've got active here. Obviously, the first Incarnon perk, fire a high-powered beam and gain magnetic damage. That's the Incarnon form we got. But also, we've got Crimson Overture on here. There are 2 options on Tier 2. One of them is Crimson Overture. On kill, gain ammo efficiency for 5 seconds, stacks with the 4 times. If you are maining this in a survival as a DPS weapon, this gives you 80% efficiency, which means that 80% of the time you will not consume bullets. So you can fire the bullets on the primary shot in this thing for a very long time. So that's pretty good. The other option is going to give you 2 less base damage, but on stats that you get increased fire rate, 5% per stack up to 6 times. So basically free 30% fire rate, but this thing has too much fire rate in my opinion, so I decided not to go for that one. As in survivals, reloading all the time is kind of annoying to me. Next perk on Tier 3, we got projectile flight speed increase. It makes the bullets less annoying, like they'll actually hit where you're trying to go most of the time. And the other options aren't too phenomenal either. Swift Deliverance giving increased base magazine size. That can be good with Crimson Overture to have like basically almost infinite magazine. You're hardly ever reloading with this thing. But to me, projectile speed made it feel more consistent, so I went with that one. And then the final one's Evolved Autoloader. Magazine reloaded while holstered. We are maining this weapon in the footage, so we are not going to be using Evolved Auto Reloader because we are not like swapping weapons really. And for the final tier, you got some pretty good evos actually. We've got Death Trap Trigger. I don't know why they call this one Death Trap Trigger, but they did. Increased base critical chance and critical damage. I think that's supposed to be called Critical Parallel, but who cares? And then the other tiers or other options are High Ground, increasing your base critical chance by 25% of current status chance up to 35%. That can give you some good crit chance, depending on what kind of build you got going on. But to me, I just want to stick with the consistent crits here. And the final one, Elemental Balance, gives you more status chance. This thing has plenty of status chance already, so we're not going to be bothering with that one. Once these are all applied, I've got 232% crit chance with my Riven, and on the non-Riven build, before Galvanized Scope, we've got 132% crit chance. How are we getting to the red tier crit after all that? It's your buddy, Count Mochi. He is the brother of Count Kirby, and he is here to buff some crits. He's the Adarza Kavat Vampire Hybrid. And as far as the abilities he's using to buff us up so much, we've got Cat's Eye, Reinforced Bond, and Tenacious Bond. So we get crit damage, fire rate, and crit chance, all from our little cat over here. So that can be very powerful. Now, keep in mind, though, this build is not possible without a high shield frame using Link Redirection. As you can see right here, Link shields needed. I have a no Link shields version right here, but as you can see, this cat has hardly any shields, so even with calculated redirection, he's only at 945. So if you were on a low shield frame, the build would not work exactly the same, because as you can see right here, there is no reinforced bond, because you need 1200 shields for reinforced bond. You can still make it work, but yeah, I would highly recommend a shield frame for this setup. And as far as the mods on here, we've got Tech Assault. 60% of the time the cat will not die, and that's pretty good because it'll become immune for 4 seconds to get this shield gate back. Tech Enhance makes that cat buff. The 60% crit increase lasts for longer, which means we have better uptime on it. And the rest of the stuff is pretty standard stuff. Just shield regen to make it have better shield gate. Momentous Bond, if it does go down, it will come back from the dead quicker if we kill some Eximus. And Resource Retriever for double resources. With all those things combined, this thing is going to help us get those red crits that will one-shot Acolytes and all that stuff. So, Elusive Posture, because if this cat is going around attacking things that might die, so throw on a little bit of evasion, it should be pretty survivable. We've also got Bite to make sure we have that Tenacious Bond crit chance amount that we need. So yeah, now that we've gone over the Dera Incarnon and what I think about it, do I recommend it to you? I mean, I think you'll eventually get it either way, is my assumption. But if you only want to get the best of the best, then yeah, you don't need to bother with this one. It is a kind of fun weapon. I actually like the primary shot more than the Incarnon shot, like I said. The Incarnon shot just feels so sluggish, and the primary shot just feels like a good, good auto rifle, basically. You can mod it for status chance. It's basically a hybrid build, because these Incarnons are pretty much all hybrid nowadays. Good crit, like literally red crits with this build, and good status chance too, so we can get those elemental procs that are buffed up like by Blast and Magnetic, and if we throw on Nourish, Viral, Magnetic, and Blast, that's a really unique combo that can get some work done in high-level missions. So I have not used it for level 10,000 Demolist or Thrax or anything like that, but with that built-in Magnetic, it should be very good for Thrax. That being said, though, going against level 10,000 Thrax, they like to jump around a lot, and this thing does require some precision. So that could be kind of annoying to some players, too, especially when such OP weapons in this game require no precision at all. We got this thing, the the Dera Vandal Incarnon, it's like a little bit, it requires some precision. Like the super shot doesn't require that much precision, but if you want maximum damage, you want to go for a headshot too. So, you know, there is an aspect of it that does require precision. So, overall recommendation of the Dera Incarnon, I'd say it's better than meh, but it's also not something you need in your arsenal at all. It is just pretty much a good auto rifle with a kind of lackluster Incarnon form. It's like, it feels like it's not very exciting. It's like, okay, so it's the normal shot, but with lower fire rate and higher damage and magnetic. It's like, okay. And when we go over the Sestra Incarnon, that was even more boring than this. So I don't know what DE was thinking with these two last Incarnons, the Sestra and the Dera. The Incarnon forms on them are extremely underwhelming, at least in my eyes. Like, we had the things like the Latron Incarnon last year, and like the Torrid, completely wildly changing how the functionality of the weapon goes from. The Latron goes from a rifle to a fireball launcher. The Torrid goes from a grenade launcher to a chaining laser beam. Those are wildly different changes for the Incarnon form, and this thing just slows down the fire rate and gives you a little bit of, like, not a little bit, gives you a lot of extra stats. So, to me, that's not enough to me actually having a weapon being used, but that's because we're kind of spoiled for choices nowadays. So, that's going to be pretty much it for the video, guys. Let me know how you feel about the Dera Vandal Incarnon in the comments down below. Again, it can get the job done on the Steel Path. It just depends if you want to make that your primary you have equipped, because you only have one primary equipped at a time. So, take it easy, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.